Welcome to the critique. Today we're looking at a really interesting project, a neurosurgeon making a leap into AI-driven cinematic content for surgical training.
Yeah, it's quite the pivot. Blending that deep medical expertise with creative filmmaking and AI, it's ambitious.
Definitely. Our focus is helping position this whole vision so it really lands as a valuable partnership, for both academic settings and potential business partners. Getting that support, that investment.
Exactly. It's clear there's passion here. The idea of turning dense text into sort of human experiences for learning, that's powerful.
It really is. It highlights something often missing in standard training, that emotional, experiential side. Great starting point.
Absolutely. But here's the first thought. The material really nails the unique cinematic approach. But we need to sharpen how this innovation becomes a critical solution for specific institutional partners.
Okay. So, moving beyond the general appeal too, what problems does it solve for them?
Precisely. The cinematic textbook idea is compelling, very authentic. But the weakness, maybe, is that the pitch could be stronger if it explicitly translates this innovation into, let's say, quantifiable educational or operational benefits.
For a company like BrainLab or the neurosurgery department at TUM.
Right. It's got the vision, but maybe not enough of the direct what's in it for me for those specific partners.
Exactly. It's rich creatively, but needs a tighter link to their specific pain points or strategic goals. It's about demonstrating immediate value, not just long-term potential.
Okay, so what's the suggestion? How do we reframe it?
Well, the suggestion is to reframe that cinematic textbook concept. Think of it more as a highly specialized, outcomes-driven cinematic surgical training module, or maybe an interactive surgical decision-making simulator.
That language sounds much more targeted.
It does. It speaks directly to the gaps they already know exist in medical education and training. It aligns with their strategic objectives for, improving programs or even enhancing their own tech platforms.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So let's get concrete. How would that look, say, pitching to BrainLab versus TUM? How do you tailor that message?
Good question. So for a technical company like BrainLab, instead of leading with let's say, the subjective human experience part, highlight how your modules can, for example, demonstrably reduce the learning curve for complex neurosurgical procedures by X% for residents using their platforms.
Okay, tangible results tied to their tech.
Exactly. Leading to, improved patient outcomes, reduced training costs. That directly hits product enhancement, market advantage. That's language they understand immediately.
And for the academic side, like TUM.
For the neurosurgery department at TUM, you'd shift the emphasis. You'd stress that these cinematic scenarios provide a, quote, groundbreaking pedagogical tool, something that can improve the learning curve for residents, better prepare students,
Right.
potentially leading to measurable increases in, say, surgical readiness scores, or maybe a reduction of errors in simulated environments.
So you're framing it as a direct academic asset, something that boosts their educational impact, align with their mission.
Precisely. Tangible educational impact. That's the key for them. Showing how it solves their specific institutional needs.
Got it. Okay, let's move to the second point. This relates to the scope, the vision for the initial output. The listener talks about wanting to harvest millions from a single distinguished movie.
Yeah, that phrase stood out. It shows high ambition for the quality and impact of the first major piece of content. And that vision for a powerful, single work is valuable.
It is, but how does that ambition translate into attracting, say, investment or long-term partnership? That's where we need to be strategic.
Right. And here's the potential weakness. The desire for that big hit from one movie is understandable, but the pitch could be more strategic if it explicitly positions this initial project as more of a scalable proof of concept.
Okay, not just a standalone artistic success.
Exactly. Less standalone, more foundational. The material does mention building a library of content and video games, but the connection between that first distinguished movie and this broader monetizable vision, it could be much more immediate, more robust, right there in the initial pitch.
I see. So the risk is it looks like a one-off creative project, maybe high risk, rather than the first step in a bigger business plan.
That's the risk, yeah. It needs to feel less like a high-stakes gamble on one film and more like the start of a reliable, expandable platform. That's more appealing to partners looking for ongoing value.
Okay, so the suggestion, how do we make its potential for broader impact and investment clearer?
The suggestion is to position that single, distinguished movie explicitly as a minimum viable product, an MVP.
Ah, the MVP framing. Makes sense.
Right. It's not just a film. It's the demonstration piece. It validates a replicable framework for creating a whole library of this unique educational content. And you need to show there's a clear roadmap for scaling that up, for monetizing it.
So it proves the method as much as the content.
Exactly. That framework itself is the long-term value proposition for a partner. It shows you can deliver value again and again, not just once.
Okay, so how do we actually weave that into the pitch? What does that sound like in practice?
You could state it very clearly, something like, this initial cinematic surgical case study focusing on the anterior communicating artery complex, for instance, this is our MVP.
Explicitly call it the MVP.
Yes, then explain. It validates our unique methodology for converting lived experience into these immersive scenarios. It proves the potential for a full curriculum of modules across neurosurgical anatomy.
Okay, so it sets the stage, then what?
Then you follow up immediately by outlining that clear path forward. For example, the success of this MVP directly enables the creation of a robust content library and give them a sense of scale, potentially leading to, say, 30-plus chapters, interactive VR scenarios, even full-fledged video games with branching storylines.
Right, showing the ecosystem.
Exactly. And then you tie it to revenue, per each representing distinct revenue streams through institutional licensing, pay-per-view, subscription models. And if you can, project some numbers, projecting a market value of X million over Y years.
Okay, that paints a much bigger picture. It moves it firmly from one cool movie to scalable educational technology business. Much more investable.
Precisely. It shows partners the long-term growth potential and the return they could see.
Right. Which brings us to the third point. And honestly, this feels like the absolute bedrock of the whole thing. Your 20 years of neurosurgical experience.
Absolutely. The secret sauce, as the material puts it, the most powerful selling point.
No question. So the topic sentence here is, your 20 years of neurosurgical experience is a profound asset. Let's make absolutely sure it's presented not just as your background, but as the fundamental differentiator delivering unmatched value.
Yes. This is your unfair advantage, right? It needs to be front and center, woven into everything.
So what's the weakness currently? It sounds like the material does identify it as important.
It does. It correctly identifies it as crucial. But sometimes, maybe, the pitch presents this experience more as a credential than as a direct, functional advantage that shapes the product itself.
Ah, okay. So it's used for credibility. I know what I'm talking about because I did this for 20 years, but maybe less to explain how that experience makes the content itself uniquely effective.
Exactly. It needs to be more deeply integrated. We need to show how those 2 decades in the OR intrinsically shape a superior product, something literally unreproducible without that lived experience. That's what makes you essential as a partner.
Got it. It's the difference between saying, I'm qualified, and saying, my qualification is why this product is uniquely powerful and effective.
That's it, perfectly. So the suggestion is straightforward. Weave your neurosurgical experience into every aspect of the project's value proposition. Emphasize how it directly enables the creation of content that's unparalleled in its accuracy, its clinical relevance, and, importantly, its emotional depth.
And that drives superior learning outcomes.
Precisely. Outcomes that, a general instructional designer or an AI prompt engineer working alone simply couldn't achieve. This authenticates the whole offering for academics who value rigor and for businesses who need to trust the quality.
Okay, let's brainstorm some concrete ways to phrase that. How do you make that functional advantage crystal clear in the pitch?
Well, instead of just the simple statement, I am a neurosurgeon with 20 years experience, you could use phrases that illustrate the direct impact.
Like what?
For example, my 2 decades in the operating room allow us to distill complex patient narratives into scenarios that replicate actual surgical decision-making challenges
Okay.
and the emotional stakes involved. That creates a depth of realism impossible to achieve without that lived experience.
Collecting experience directly to realism.
Right, and then link it to the benefit. This means trainees don't just learn facts, they actually cultivate resilience and judgment under pressure. That's a huge value add.
That's much more powerful. And how about when discussing the AI component? How do you keep the experience central there?
Great point. You emphasize the human direction. Maybe something like, look, this project isn't just AI generated. It's fundamentally surgeon-directed.
Surgeon-directed AI, I like that.
Yeah, and then explain why that matters. My hands-on experience ensures every visual cue, every procedural nuance, every emotional beat resonates with the real pressures and precision demanded in neurosurgery.
Mm-hmm.
And that directly translates to enhanced trainee preparedness and ultimately patient safety. It clarifies that your expertise is the guiding intelligence, using AI as a powerful tool to capture and scale an authenticity only you can provide.
So the AI amplifies the expert. It doesn't replace the core value. That makes your role completely irreplaceable in any partnership.
Exactly. It makes you the essential ingredient.
This has been really helpful. Okay, let's quickly recap the main takeaways here. The core actionable suggestions for positioning yourself as that indispensable partner are basically 3 things.
Sounds good.
First, strategically reframe the whole cinematic textbook idea. Make it an outcomes-driven training solution, really zeroing in on those quantifiable benefits for specific institutional partners. Speak their language.
Right. Targeted value.
Second, elevate that initial single movie project. Frame it clearly as a scalable minimum viable product, an MVP, complete with a roadmap showing how it leads to a larger content library, diverse revenue streams. Show the business potential.
Scalability in the business model. Got it.
And third, and maybe most importantly, really leverage those 20 years of neurosurgical experience. Hammer home that it's the fundamental, irreplaceable product differentiator, not just a line on the CV. Show how it makes the content uniquely valuable.
Make that unfair advantage undeniable.
Exactly. So refine the pitches with these insights. Focus on that partnership value. And please, absolutely, we'd love for you to submit the updated materials back to us for another look when you're ready.
Yeah, definitely. Great potential here. Looking forward to seeing the next iteration.